When we learned this with Abiel a long, long time ago, so when we finished, he said, no, it was the Sachakel. Sachakel is that the Eberster is Hecher for Welt and nicht Stockchen Welt. We said, yeah. He said, Lama lernen noch einmal. Came to the wrong conclusion. The conclusion of Viyadata Moskva is that the Eberster is sehr nont und reingetan in Welt. And I think that that's the one thing that is absolutely clear is that the whole Chassidus, Chabad, is to bring the Shechina down Lamata. Not to make the Eberster more mysterious, but to bring the Eberster down Lamata. It started right from the beginning that is the purpose, that's the tachlis, that's the whole idea, to bring the Eberster down to earth. But you find in Chassidus a lot of emphasis on his pashtus. Hafshota, not his pashtus. Hafshota means taking the ideas out of its physical context. Yaakov Avinu sees Rachel, he runs over and he kisses her. You're not understanding what's going on. It's not like what it looks like. It's much higher, it's much holier, it's much more ruchni. So the whole idea of hafshata is a hagdama to bring the opposite, to show the opposite. As high as the Eberster is, as high as Ruchnius is, and as unreachable and beyond, the Eberster becomes reachable and he makes himself reachable. And so Hafshata by itself is not a goal. Was hat man von dem? Your mafshit, the Eberster is very, very far, and less machshava tvisabe, and you go home. What did you accomplish? That is definitely not the point or the purpose. So now we take a look at how does hafshata work? The more refined and the more able your seichel is, the more you can be mafshit. People who are very mundane, what do you mean? A stone is not a stone. A stone is a stone. No, stones are ACs. A stone is a letter, it's a word. I don't know what you're talking about. A stone is a stone. If you have a little edel at a seichel, you realize a stone is not so simple. The more edel, the more not simple it becomes. So you take away one layer of meaning, another layer of meaning, until you get to something that is pure. What is the word? Pure seichel, right? It's pure concept. There's nothing you can see, nothing you can taste, nothing you can measure, and yet it's very real in principle, in abstraction.
What makes it real? It's seichel. Seichel is real.
No, it's real in the sense that it's absolutely necessary. Can't be any other way. In other words, everything in the physical comes from something prior. And what's prior is more necessary. In other words, the mocker, the origin from where everything began, is more a necessary thing than how it turned out.
So is that seichel? Seichel is the mocker of everything?
When you understand the mocker, yeah. More mechuyev hametzias, yeah. Yeah. So, for example, Sweetness comes from Midas HaChesed. Which Midas HaChesed? Chesed the Atzilus. Who says it had to end up in a candy? That's lav dafki. Could have ended up in a candy. Could end up in a song. It could end up in a. But the sweetness itself has to exist. It had to start someplace. So the beginnings of it is the real thing, and then it can come in different forms. But the forms already are not so mechuyev. It had to be a candy. So here's the thing. As you go through the process of hafshata, of getting closer and closer to the abstract idea, you create a split between the Gashmi and the Ruchni. They're not compatible. The more you explain that the Gashmi is not the real thing, then the real thing and the not real thing become further and further apart and incompatible. So you can't have both at the same time in the same place. The problem is that all of the hafshata is applicable to creation, to Seder Ishtalshelus. In Seder Ishtalshelus, you can have this process, because Ishtalshelus means halbasha, so hafshata is simply the reverse. But once you get past Seder Ishtalshelus, what is hafshata? What are you mafshit? Particularly when you come to the Eibishter himself, the hafshata doesn't apply at all. You can't say about the Eibishter, he's not this. He's something else. So this whole process, this whole form of seichel that takes you from the Gashmi to the Ruchni doesn't apply to the Eibishter, because he's not Ruchni. So Gashmi is not a contradiction. So the Eibishter can be present, fully present, in the Gashmi as much as he is in the Ruchni. I think the Chiddush of Deir HaShvi is that we got to the Eibishter himself, and by the Eibishter himself, there's no hafshata. So in Torah, there's a pshat remez drushan said. So where is there more elokus, in pshat or in sod? Obviously in the sod. But that's only if you're talking about Seder Ishtalshelus. If you're talking about the Eibishter himself, where is the Eibishter more, in pshat or in remez? Or in drush or in sod? You can't say more or less. He's more here than there. Talking about the Eibishter. So Pshute Shel Mikra takes on a whole new... Okay. So let's see how...
You can still say more Eibishter, less Eibishter.
More Likus.
Oh, more Likus, yeah, that's meaning.
But not more him.
Yeah, but more Likus.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the difference between them is the degrees of Likus.
Yeah.
But once you're talking about the Eibishter, Can't say that he is more. V'yesh v'ro loymar, that he prefers b'pshat. Right? Okay, this is a serious learning. Vidעת היום ושבס לבבך כי הוויה הוא הליקים. הנה הפסוקים שקדם זה מדברים מעניין יציאת מצרים וכניסת הארץ. This knowledge, Viyadata, you should know and understand that Havaya hu alikim, this comes as a result of Yetzias Mitzrayim and Knisas Haaretz. V'achar kach emer Viyadata hayom. Tzarich lahavin shaychus in Yetzias Mitzrayim and Knisas Haaretz liViyadata. V'yesh lahavin tchila ma shekosov ki Havaya hu alikim. V'yadua ma she'omar al zeh b'zehar the Havaya ve'elikim kul echad. L'chayra ein ze muvon heichem kul echad. Hine yadua the Havaya hu moker hagilui. V'hu b'chinas midas harachamim. כמו שכוסו במדרש בזיה בכמה דוכתר. והיינו, what does it mean that Havaya is gilui and rachamim? והיינו שהוא בחינס גילוי בבחינס חסד ורחמים בלי שום הגבלה כלל. The definition of Havaya, of the Shem Havaya is Gilui, which is Chesed and Rachamim, and because it is Gilui, that's what it is, then there is no limit to it. B'li shum hagbala klal. Why? The chol hagbala hu m'shem alikim, k'mei sheyizboer. Avol Shem Havaya hu Gilui b'bechinas b'li gvul klal. So you're talking about bli gvul chesed, which is gilui, and bli gvul gilui, which is chesed. Gilui and chesed are synonyms, no? If you reveal yourself, that's chesed. You're revealing yourself to someone else. That's a generosity. If you're not generous, you keep everything to yourself. And why is it bli gvul? Because if that's what you are be'etzem, then there's no limit on it. Then Shem Elikim, hu bechinas midas hadim v'hatzimtzum, letzamtzum ulahalim es hagiliyeh. What does that result in? When you limit, that causes separation and many different levels. V'lochem b'shem elikim ksiv loshen rabim. K'mei shekosev elikim k'doshim, which is loshen rabim. Lihiyes shemei hatzimtzum v'hahelem bo b'ribei ha'eschalkus. Why isn't there ribui eschalkus and chesed?
Together, not separate.
Well, you can have more gili, less gili. What is the hischalkus and the tzimtzum? More tzimtzum, less tzimtzum. So why can't you have more gili, less gili?
Because if you be megala who you are, then it's irrelevant to something else. You're being megala yourself, not if you're being megala to someone else, so then there's his helpless. But if you're being megala yourself,
that's true, but it's really a trick question. More gili, less gili, that's tzimtzum. What creates less gili? Not gili. Huh?
You're being miscounted, so you're breaking it away.
That's tzimtzum. So you can't say there are different kinds of gili without tzimtzum.
Why is the outcome reading? Many limitless various
Degrees. So in hiding, there's many degrees. If I decide I'll give you only some, well, how much? So the whole idea of limit of tzimtzum means a limit. How much limit?
and it's not absolute limit. Information is absolute limit. There's nothing back to zero. Before the test.
I guess there could be, but what would be the point of absolute limit?
This
In other words, can there be tzimtzum without oir? What are you limiting?
right.
That's maybe the absolute darkness, the cheshech of Mitzrayim or something. I don't know. Okay. והלושן הקבלה שם הוויה הוא מקור הארץ ושם הליקים מקור הכלים. To clarify it more, you look in Kabbalah. Kabbalah says that Havaya is Eir and Elikim is Keli. How does that help us understand? Ha'Eir hu Parshut b'lishum is Chalkus Klal b'li Gvul. Because Eir hu me'ein ha'mo'er liyesei dovuk be'ha'mo'er ki yadua me'hamoshel de'ever ziv ha'shemesh. וכשם שהמוער הוא פושט בתכלס הפשיטס, בבחינס בלי גבול בעצם, כמי כן האור והגילי ממנו, הוא כמי האור, פושט בלי ישחלקוס ובלי גבול. What does it mean that Eir is me'ein hamo'er? So there are two kinds of gili. There's gili Eir and there's gili of hashpar, shefa. Eir and shefa. Gili Eir comes from the mo'er, and it is not affected by the makabel. When you're megala yourself, independent of who you're talking to, that's called Eir. If you're megala yourself according to the person you're talking to, that's called shefa.
So usually words only the almost has the cable that you accept the
That's shefa.
or doesn't adjust. So the only way a person is makabel is if they already have the ability to makabel.
Otherwise, you won't get anything. Yeah. So, gili means you're being yourself, unaffected by anything outside yourself. Shefa means you're communicating to somebody else. Once there's a somebody else, it's not you already. You're not being yourself completely. I think the good mashal is when you're talking about how happy you are, it's more like shefa. But the fact that your face is shining with pleasure, that's Eir. Your face is not shining so that others will know that you're happy. In fact, if there was nobody around, your face would shine also. So it is a gili because it's coming out, but it's not meant for anybody. So it's just the etzem presence of the mo'er begili.
Bisgalus.
Bizgalus. So it's me'ein hamoir. Whereas once you start saying how happy you are to somebody else, that's already shefa. Huh? Was the uftu? You mean what effect does it have? You can't say what is its kavana. There's no kavana there. You can't say, why did you do that? Why did you make your face shine? I didn't.
But the truth is, by the Eibishter does make it happen.
That the aid is berotzen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it can't be that it has no effect. So I think the result is the gilui that is eir has an effect on the makabel be'efen makif. And shefa has an effect be'efen pnimi.
We said that the Gili aura changes the people, but the Gili Shefa doesn't change the power. Because the Kalim don't need to grow at all to accept the Gili.
On the contrary, shefa makes more growth in the makabel.
Even in the Kalim.
In the keli, yeah. So what is the difference between a makif effect and a pnimi effect? What's the difference? Makif effect causes bittul. You're overwhelmed, you're bottled. Whereas a shefa, you're mekabel it, you internalize it, you become bigger and stronger, closer, whatever. So gilui eir causes bittul. Because the keli can't be mekabel.
Not does it always show itself in a way of overwhelming. Sometimes, I would say sometimes you see there's a makif effect where, let's say there's someone with a very good attitude in the room, and it will lift everyone up, but it's not overwhelming everyone and causing a bittul in that fashion.
Okay, so let's understand. Bittul doesn't mean I feel like I'm nothing. Bittul means I lose control. It's not me doing it.
But overwhelming doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yeah. Overwhelming doesn't mean I'm freaking out. It means I'm
Typically it does.
Yeah. No, it means I'm feeling something that isn't me. It's doing it to me. So I'm overwhelmed, I guess, right? I'm not usually this happy. So when this happens to me and I become so happy, this is not me. Who was it who said that this in the middle of davening, he said, the Rebbe tracht wegen mir. It was in different cities. They found out later that exactly that moment back in Rostov or wherever it was.
Because raises, no? The Sukkis.
Or
In Shminat Tzeres, in the Sukkah.
Yeah,
The Rebbe tracht.
yeah.
And they came back.
And the Rebbe gefragt wegen them.
Ja, want we hebben hem geklept. Steeds de rug gekeken.
Uh-huh.
Dus ik zei, nee, het is mijn Gierse benefis.
So how did he know that the Rebbe is thinking about him? It wasn't Ruach HaKodesh, he knew the Rebbe was thinking. He felt a closeness that is not his. He knew he doesn't have that kind of... So it must be that the Rebbe... In other words, he felt the Rebbe. But he could have said, oh, that's I'm a chosed. Feel ich dem Rebbe. He said, no, this feeling is not mine. That's called overwhelm. If you're honest. Where's the problem?
So you explaining two types of bittel?
No, bittel means
You're saying bittel beglaal.
nicht ich.
Bittel is beglaal nistig.
Right.
And das is oil.
That's the effect that it has. Huh?
Where's the mashpia?
What? There's no hashpo. That's the point. Versus mashpia. Right. Right.
How does Eretz establish
Tzimtzum. You need Shem Elikim.
The Erev tegengebied. Yeah, remember.
Yeah, yeah.
It goes against its nature.
So what does it mean that Eid is Me'ein HaMoed? It means it belongs to the Moed, not to the Mekabel. There's no effect of the Mekabel. It's the Moed being itself. But it's the Gili of itself. So usually we think of Gili as communication. You're showing yourself to someone else. But it's lav davke. You have a Gili and there's no... In fact, you can have a Gili that destroys the Mekabel. Now, if you have too much Gili, you're destroying the Kelim. Okay, so the Moed is bli gvul, therefore the Eid, which is Me'ein HaMoed, is also bli gvul. Why is the Moed bli gvul? Because of the general principle that nothing limits itself. There's no natural limit. Wherever there's a limit, there's one thing limiting the other. But a thing does not limit itself. Which makes a lot of sense. If you're chesed, why would you not be chesed? What would stop you ever from
What
being...
doesn't mean a thing, because when you say a thing doesn't limit itself, you can't be speaking about a person, because a person in himself has different aspects to him, and he could limit himself. What do you mean by a thing doesn't limit itself? And a creature will limit itself.
No.
It will run, but
No.
it won't run too fast.
Because it has
It will
an
self-regulate.
external, and as an external power limiting it. Someone created it that way.
It's like you can limit certain functions, you can't limit yourself. What you are be'etzem, you can't limit.
Okay.
That's why people, I can't help it. I can't help it. So when you're talking about the mo'ed, there's just the mo'ed. So who's limiting? And to limit itself,
But isn't that itself a limitation
yeah,
on the Moed?
that it's only whatever it is. Chesed is only chesed.
No. Then you're putting a limitation on the Moed, on the Eibishter. You're saying that he can't limit himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's why mo'ed is not everything.
That answers. Because of this?
Yeah. That's why you can't say about the Eibishter, and this is really interesting. You can't say about the Eibishter, this is him be'etzem. Be'etzem. What does etzem mean? You can't change it. You can't say that about the Eibishter. The Eibishter is chesed be'etzem. No. Chesed be'etzem is a limit. You get this clear in our minds.
So you're saying the Hakbole of Moed is that it has no Hakbole?
Yeah. And that is the Hagbola of Etzem. Every Etzem has that Hagbola. This is really me. Oh, okay, so that's all you are, huh? Okay. I'm a very kind person. Okay. You've limited yourself. And the limit is absolute. Nicht stam.
So Stam Amaratz Shaila. When we talk in Chassidus Moed, what are we referring to?
The mocker
Not
of this
Atzmus.
guilt.
What are we referring to? Etzem Eir and Sof?
Yeah,
What is
yeah,
Etzem Ho'eir?
yeah. So it's either etzem ha-chesed, etzem ha... One of the shridus.
More like a bullet as a not a more.
So what can you say about the Eibishter that is absolute? The only thing you can say about the Eibishter absolute is he is everything. There is
Even limiting
nothing.
himself.
There is nothing missing.
Even limiting himself. Yeah.
Limitation comes from Atzmus.
Even
Heaven.
even
Atzmus.
So the most basic idea of Eibishter is you can't exclude anything. Is the Eibishter Chesed? Yes. Is he Gvura? Yes. Is he Chochmah? Yeah. Is he Bina? Yeah. So he's all those things? No. He's the Eibishter. Try that again. He is everything is in him. So that's what he is? No. He is all those things, but he's none of them. Nicht das is. What was is is alles. Not made up of all these pieces. He is everything. Whatever there can be, he is. So it's not.
and he's also not.
Yeah, so it's not a limit that he is everything. He is everything is also a limit. So he is Eibishter. He is Eibishter. So what is it? What does that include? Everything. That's what I'm saying. That by the process of hafshata does not apply to him. You can't say he's not. He's higher. Omnom shem elikim u'mekei hakelim shebohem mitzamtzem u'mesalim ho'er u'magbilim es ho'er shebo b'chinas es chalkus chochma v'chesed shekol zeh hu mitzad hakelim. Why is chochma separate from chesed? Because of the kelim. There are some distinctions in Eid also. Eid HaChochma is not the same as Eid HaChesed. Even though they can be switched, they can change. Chlifu duchtayu. But primarily, the difference between Chochma and Chesed comes from Tzimtzum, not from Eid. So Eid is generic. The Eibishter reveals. What does he reveal? What's the difference? Here he reveals Chochmah, here he reveals Chesed. In the Eid, there's no real difference. At least not a difference where they're incompatible. I'm guessing here. Why does the Rebbe pick Chochmah and Chesed? Chochmah and Bina, Chesed and Gvura. You would think Chesed and Gvura would be a good example, no? What's Chochmah and Chesed? Mitzad ha'ir, they're the same thing. Kav ha'yamin. Und von deswegen, the Tzimtzum creates the Kelim is this. V'hagam, the Kelim, des Esvireis, harei he megalim es ha'ir ha'melubish b'teicham. When we talk about Kelim, you can be talking about two opposite purposes or functions. The Keli is magbul de'er, or the Keli is megalu de'er. Ukamei, hameach shaberosh, shemegale es eir haseichel hamelubish b'teichel lahaskil. V'chein ha'ayin megale es eir ha're'iyah haruchnius. V'halev megale es hamides. Ukamei ken hulamayla, Chochmah is meicha, Chesed re'eh yemina, shehei megalim es ha'eres. Tezehu kolin ha'kelim shemegalim es ha'er v'ha'er peil yodom ki yadua kanal b'nefesh. So what exactly does a keli do to the eir? On the one hand, it limits it, but on the other hand, it's megalim. When you speak chesed, you're megala chesed.
This wouldn't be Gili, this would be Sheba.
Right. That it's not Eid anymore. Here he's saying,
Wouldn't be Megal the Ar.
so we know. It does both, no? So what's the chachma here? It does both. It's megala and it's ma'ila. It conceals a little bit so that it can reveal a little bit. Megala tefach and machasa tefach. Why is that so complicated? So the Rebbe wants to say that it's not just two separate things. Yeah, it does both. What do you mean it does both? Darf masber sein. Hine shneihem emes. Shehei megalim es ha'er v'gam ma'alimim mastirem al ha'er. The mashe megalim es ha'er hainu er shelefi erech ha'elam es. What is it, megale? It's megale, the air that relates to the world. The hakelim des esvidas that tzilis may eat them when megalim air be'elam ha'atzilis. While yedei ha'parsa ha'mafsekes bein atzilis lebriya, harei he megalim es ha'er be'elam ha'briya u'mebriya liyitzira. If you turn on the light on the other side of the mechitza, and some of the light comes through the mechitza, what did you just do? Hide the light by the mechitza or reveal the light? The light is revealed on this side of the mechitza because it was turned on that side of the mechitza. No, so that's gili. Yeah, but it's not the same. In the process, it gets changed. So you turn the light on in Atzilus, and some of it is felt in Bria. The ein ze bechinas gila ha'er kamei shehu, she'arein is boy le'il, the ha'er hu me'ein ha'mo'er, v'hu pasha betachlis ubli gvul. Ve'al kein ha'er be'etzem ein elefi erech ha'elam es. Shekol eilam behechra shehu bechinas yeshu gvul. Even eilam ha'atzilus. Hainu ha'hechol is the atzilus. Hareheim bechinas yeshu gvul. Atzilus is one of the four eilamis. It's not the Eibishter. So as holy as it is, there's a limit. It's limited to Atzilus. כמו שכוסו בספר של בינונים באיגרת הקדש דיבר המסחל עיר וחיי אחד. כל שכן עולם הבריאה והיצירה והעשייה שהן בחינת גבול. The fact that it's called an olam means that it's some kind of a gvul. וגבול ובלי גבול הם באין ערך כלל זה לא זה. Which means שהאור בעצם אינו בערך האולמס. If you're talking about the Eires of Atzilus, you're talking about Ein Arech. The Eir is much higher than the Olam. Because Olam is Gvul, and Eir is Bli Gvul. V'im kein muvon, the Masha HaKelim Megalim Eir Beho Elam Eis, Ein ze bechinas etzem ha'eir. Ki im bechinas ha'orech etzenis levad mimenu. Aval etzem ha'eir hu bechinas helen bohem. She'ei ma'alimim olav. So when we say the world or the keli is mailim, what is it mailim? The etzem ha'eir. But it's also megala. But what is it megala? The chitzenius ha'eir. Because al yedei zeh shema'alimim al etzem ha'eir, harei he megalim es chitzenius ha'eir, she'yo'ir v'yifil ba'elamis. It's not two separate things. The only way to be megala the eir that is be'erech the world is by eliminating or blocking the eir that is not. You can't overwhelm me and educate me at the same time. So if you're overwhelming me, fine, so I'm overwhelmed. And if you're educating me, then don't overwhelm me. So the only way to do that is block the etzem ha'eir, which is overwhelming, and then I can be mekabel the chitzenius ha'eir, which is lefi erech.
What is it bringing out when it says Shekol Olam after show the pronunciation of the Olam Ha'atzilas? I know how Paulos Shivas Datsilas. What are we excluding? What does it mean? Paulos Vasilis, not the speeders. What are we talking? What are we saying?
What makes an olam an olam? So olam ha'atzilas. What does that mean? If you're explaining what is Atzilus, then you're talking pure Ruchnis. Atzilus means bittul be'etzem. Like it, Bria is bottle, but it's a nivra that is bottle. Atzilus, it never became anything to have to be mevatel. Right? So Atzilus never became a metzius. That's called Atzilus. There are certain people who from birth never had an ego.
I wouldn't want to meet their parents.
Like you say, maybe like David HaMelech, right? He's supposed to be born and pass away the same moment. He was simultaneous.
It never stopped. It never separated from the Eibishter that it has to be bottled to the Eibishter. That level of closeness, that's called Atzilus. But what is Olam HaAtzilus? Or in different words, why isn't everybody like that? How did it stop? How does Atzilus become Bria? What stopped that awareness or that condition? That condition exists in Atzilus, not. Where is that border? That's the Heichel. This is the Heicholis of a. Like there's a place for Atzilus. Outside, no Atzilus. Obviously, we're not talking about a physical place. Talking about like the shape of Atzilus. Outside of that shape is already being. So what is that? The tzimtzum, not on the godliness of Atzilus, the tzimtzum on the spread of Atzilus into beyond itself. So what makes Atzilus end and Bria can begin?
That's what we're describing as Atzilus, like the colors. The colors is only just a rib that prevents it from spilling over. Why is that the definition of Atzilus?
No, it's a definition of Olam. Even in Atzilus, there is an Olam, there's Heicholis, and they are only what they are. They don't go beyond them. Beyond. So the shaila is, how does that work? Is it the limit of Bria? That Bria can't relate to Atzilus? Or is it that Atzilus has its limit? Not limit of godliness. Limit of expansion, limit of what's that the Rebbe Rashab says in Torah Sholem? When we say Ein Eid Milvade, we don't mean Atzilus. Ein Eid Milvade is only the Eibishter himself. If you think there are two Atzilusim, that's okay. It's not apocryphal.
Isn't that
said
what
this-
Adam said in the beginning is common that Atzilus is still art. Art only shines in a place that's ready to embrace art. That's its natural limit. Not hashma. If you're ready to say, God, I'm ready to accept you or you are, then it's shining. It's not another place. It's anywhere you are. Once you say, I'm me. So how can we make this work? So the first step is Bria.
It's a subtle distinction. You're saying it's bli gvul, and yet it's an olam. So I think the Poshet Pshat is it's bli gvul alakus, but it's limited in its expansion, and maybe because of that, not everything can accept bli gvul alakus.
Well, there's nothing, there's no thing. There's just the bleak below. There is nothing that we need to receive it or can't receive it. In other words,
Bria doesn't exist yet.
Right.
So obviously, Bria comes as a result of Tzimtzum, not a result of Eir.
To explain that would be its limit, simply a little flawed. Because there is nothing yet that it can't relate to. So that would be a limit. That's why it's limited. You can only really say that because it's limitless, therefore there's some type of sorry. Once we know there is something that can only receive so much.
True. Yeah, if there were no Kalim, we wouldn't even know what's going on.
So it's essentially no.
So we're talking after the fact. So hine shnehem emes. What does it mean shnehem emes? Not just the fact that they both are happening. It's megala and it's ma'ilam u'mastir. Shnehem emes means the masha megalim es ha'eil. Hainu eir shelefi erech ha'ilamis. The hakelim, the esses vidas, the atzilus, me'irim u'megalim eir be'ilam ha'atzilus. While yedei ha'parsa ha'mafsekes ben atzilus v'briya, harei he megalim es ha'eir be'ilam ha'briya u'mebriya li'yetzilah. Where's the Mishneim Emes?
Same as Ebershad emes.
Tzimtzum is not fake. The result of Tzimtzum is not fake. It's not that once you go through the air that comes through the Mosach is not real air. It's a fake. No, it is the oil. But the oil has taken on another. So it'd be very simple to say, when I'm telling you the truth, it's oil. When I'm lying to you, it's shefa. If I'm being honest, it's oil. If I'm not being honest, it's shefa. We're not talking about that. Same as he said very often, that when you have a mashal, so the mashal helps the Talmud understand the concept. But it's not mailim on the mashpia, on the Rav. The Rav sees the whole idea in the mashal. So the mashal is not a lie. It's not changing the subject. It's mamish this subject. It says emes la'amita. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, ein ze b'chinas gili ha'er kamesha hu sha'arei nizbar li'il the ha'er hu me'ein ha'moir v'hu pasha b'tachlis u'bli gvul v'im kein ha'er be'etzem ein lefi erech ha'ilamis shekoil oilam behechrach shehu b'chinas yeshu gvul even oilam ha'tzilus ha'nei choz d'atzilis harei heim b'chinas yeshu gvul kamesha kosa b'sev shal b'eini b'geres ha'kedi b'ramaskel iyo v'chayeyu chad. So even though both are emes, you can have emes and it's be'ein arech. In emes you can have an ein arech. Shari ha'er be'etzem eine be'erech ha'olames, then can move on the mashakelim megalim er be'olames ein ze bechinas etzem ha'er. Ki in bechinas ha'orach hitzenius levad nimen. Aval etzem ha'eru bechinas helam bahem she'ma'alim amalav. Val yedei zeh she'ma'alim amal etzem ha'er ha'rizem megam hitzenius ha'er she'yor ve'yifel be'elamis. So that I think the vort is by being mailim, by hiding the etzem ha'er, you are megala the emes of the chitzenius ha'er. Because emes is everywhere. So if the etzem ha'er is begilui, you're not so conscious of the emes. You're conscious of the gilui. If you're mailim the etzem ha'er, and you're left with the chitzenius ha'er,
You megala
the emes
of the game.
I think that's basically the whole point of the whole Maamer. Coming down is not losing anything, fakert. So I say the Eberstedt is behelem, and it's a cheshach kofel mechupel. So the Eberstedt is like not here? Tzimtzum kipshute? No, fakert. Kein bakedesh chazisir. What do we see when there's no Kodesh? What do you see? You see the emes. By Kodesh, you see Kedusha. You see Bli Gvul.
So essentially, Kalim is Chitzenius.
Kalim is Chitzenius Ha'od.
Kelim talks to the Tzenius. Huh? Kelim.
All of that means.
Primis HaKelim talks to the Tzenius.
Like that mashal about a king who said that one day anyone can come and talk to him. So all the people that came got distracted by the palace, the gardens, the ministers. Everyone was distracted by something on the, and they ended and never got to talk to the king. Who got to talk to the king? Einer was versteht nicht gardens. He doesn't know ministers. He doesn't know architecture. He doesn't know wealth. He walks in. He says, "Where's the king?" And he goes directly to the king and he says, "I need a horse. I need a cow." The lack of giluyim allowed him to go directly to the Eibusher. So Lamoshel, the more enlightened, the more intelligent people say, "Wow, what incredible gardens!" Gebatra Vemes, whose garden? From the garden, you can know something about the king, but not that the garden should make you forget about the king. Fakir. The king has such a garden. The king has such a palace. But now, wow, what a palace! Whose palace? You don't care. So there's the Helen and there's.
How does this apply to this?
No, this is like Marabu Masecha Hashem. So people say, I love to travel and be outdoors because then I feel closer to. Yeah, you feel closer to what? I love to go to the capital and see the palace. Whose palace? So Magodlu Masecha Hashem. Don't be so impressed with the universe. Like Einstein. He was very impressed with the universe. He forgot whose it is.